How does home birth differ from hospital birth? I don't have any personal experience with hospital birth, so that is a much more difficult question for me to answer. To me, in my own interpretation, or again, back to part of the reason why I chose home birth, is the freedom that home birth allows, the freedom of movement. If you want to go for a walk outside, if you want to be in any room or any position that seems most comfortable within your house, you have that ability. With my first pregnancy and labor, I was in labor what you would consider to be all day. It started at 5 a.m. and she was born at 9:38 at night. But I was able to eat, I was able to have meals as I went through my day, and for me it was just the comfort of being at home, and that everybody came to me and I was able to do what I needed to do at home. With hospital birth, I think it is a little bit more structured, but there are also more temptations in the way of pain relief or interventions, or if things seem to be taking too long, there is the out of a C-section, and I didn't want to have any of those options there unless they were absolutely necessary. And if they were absolutely necessary, then I would transfer to the hospital and I would deal with those then. But otherwise, I knew that it was me that was going to birth this baby, and I guess that's why it was my choice. But there are many differences between the two. Is it riskier? Why or why not? No. If you are a low-risk birth, then it's not necessarily riskier. Then home is a place that you can be if that's where you want to be. I think that people should birth where it's safest for them and where they want to be. Even if you're low risk, if you don't feel comfortable at home, then that's not where you should be. You shouldn't be at home if you can't find that comfort there. Then you should be in a hospital or a freestanding birthing center. Midwives carry standard emergency equipment and treatments. They come very, very prepared. A true home birth midwife does not want anything to happen to the mother or the baby, so they come prepared just in case. And again, they would be the first ones to say, we need to transfer, this isn't progressing, or this is out of the ordinary, or they want to make sure first and foremost that the baby is safe and the mom is safe. But what they carry is very similar to what you'd be able to find at like a level 1 hospital for what they have for treatments. In my second birth, I did have a small vaginal tear because he was born so quickly, and they were able to stitch me up right at home. I was laying on my own bed, and 2 of my friends were holding my legs, and she stitched me right up, and it was all done, and I could go right back to holding my baby and snuggling in with my family. And who helped with the birthing process? You know, that can vary from birth to birth, and it did certainly vary with both of mine. My first birth was a water birth, and I had 2 midwives present. I also had a doula, and then the father of my child. We were all there together. And I didn't want anybody else there. At my second birth, my plan had been to have the same doula, the same midwife, her assistant, and my mother as a support person for my daughter, who was 3 at the time. But it didn't actually work out that way. He came so quickly that it ended up being an unassisted birth. My mother was there as a support person for my daughter, and my husband was there with me, and my friend showed up about 3 minutes before my baby was in my arms. So, and she's also a trained and practicing doula when she arrived. But it was such a fast process that my midwife was still stuck in traffic at the time on her way over. But he was born in less than an hour of me speaking with her on the phone. So a lot quicker than anybody expected. And so what is a doula? Well, a doula is a birth support person. It's somebody who's there to support mom and dad in making sure that they're nourished, that they're hydrated, to be there to make sure that they're as comfortable as can be. It's somebody who can apply counter pressure if mom's having back labor, somebody who can take over in the massaging. I, in my first birth, really needed my doula to hold my hand. And in my second birth, as I said, because my son came so quickly, it was my doula and best friend who caught my son as he was born. So they're there to take on the role of whatever it is that you need. They get to know you well, and they are there to help with other suggestions of how to birth, positions you could use. And doulas are extremely helpful in a hospital setting, and they're very helpful in a home birth setting. And in the hospital, they're very educated in birth and in interventions and alternatives and ways to help you out. So they're great to have either way. And so how is that different from a midwife? It's extremely different from a midwife. A midwife is a licensed professional who is there to help with mom and baby. It's somebody who has trained and practiced at being able to attend a birth for many years, and extremely different. A doula is the birth support, whereas the midwife is really who you need there as the professional. And then the last question was, should women have both? And if it's an option, yes, I think that women should have both. I think it's throughout the state of Wisconsin, but there is something called Small Miracles, and I have some friends who volunteer their time as doulas through that, and it's a way to help those. And often it is younger people or lower income people or people who just simply can't afford a doula. Doulas tend to run a few $100s. And having a baby is expensive as it is, so that gets to be an awful lot. But they volunteer their time to be there to support people who would like the support but can't necessarily afford the support. So that's another thing to look into. One other thing about home birth that I wanted to mention too is that I made the choice to have the home birth, and it was very important to me to have that experience, and each time we had to pay out of pocket. It's not something that our insurance was ever willing to cover. And the price has gone up over the years. The service is very different. But it was, for me, it was the right choice. It was an extremely empowering choice. And so we paid out of pocket for it, but the coverage that we got was very different. We had an hour with our midwife for every single appointment. She was on call throughout my entire pregnancy and after for anything that I needed. They do a home visit usually at 36 weeks to come and get comfortable in your home too. And then after the baby is born, they come back within 24 hours to check on you, within 3 days to check on you both, and then again at 2 weeks, and then there's one more appointment at 6 weeks postpartum. And they're very supportive throughout all of that. I had a lot of issues with my first daughter trying to figure out, neither one of us knew how to breastfeed, it turns out, and so we had to figure that out together. And we were having a hard time getting a proper latch, and my midwife, I called her and she gave me some advice, but she also then came over and she helped me and she worked with me and she made sure that we had it, that we both knew what we were doing, and then we were able to feed properly at home. She also referred me to lactation consultants, put me in touch with some different people, put me in touch with La Leche League, which is an invaluable community of support, and that was a huge comfort to me, knowing that I could call her at any time for anything if I had a concern. She was truly available to me. So I guess that's the answer to